Welcome to part 19 in this UNET tutorial series, and in this video I'll just go through, the absolute basics of what I know on matchmaking and how to get it to work. Now at the moment I'm not finding it to be a very robust system. I get a lot of timeout issues at the moment. It could be that I'm just sending way too much data over the network, and that could be my problem. With all the zombies moving all over the place. Now to start with, you need to set up a cloud project ID. So you go to this link that's provided in the manual. There you just log in with your Unity login, and you just create a project, give it a name, and then you type in the number of concurrent users that can use your project. So the concurrent users are just all the users who can be online at the same time with your project. You'll get a cloud project ID which you just copy and take to Unity. In this case I don't need it, I've already done that, so I'll just delete that, and I'll go back to Unity, go to the project settings, player, and there's the cloud project ID which you just paste it in there. And also just turn on run in background, so that way when you click the connect button and you move away from that screen, stuff does still happen until the network manager kicks in. Okay, so with that I can in fact build and run, and it's going to run into a problem. It should run into a problem pretty quickly, and it's because of the quality of service selection. I've selected for my channel 0. So let me just enable it, just leave the default, create internet match, and find an internet match. And if I just go over, jump on this cube, then just join. And don't click on the client ready button, wait for it to load, otherwise if you click that, the client will be put in too soon and there'll be all sorts of errors. Alright, so now it looks like everything's okay. You can go to the profiler as well, and there are two new sections for network stuff. So you can see the network messages being sent, and in this case I can see basically, oops, I've also paused it, so let me just unpause that. And yeah, that's going to cause me a timeout error, and then there's no free events from message, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm using reliable sequenced. So when I paused it like that, a bunch of packets needed to get sent to the server, or maybe it's the other way around. And because I paused it, nothing's coming through. Then there's a big backlog, and all of them have to come through in order. And each one must be received, otherwise the next lot will not get accepted. So it just causes a big bottleneck and the system crashes, basically. And you can see that I've got a bunch of buffered messages that need to go out, and I guess maybe they're not getting sent out fast enough. So to overcome that, I need to go over to advanced configuration. And really, for what I learned by just looking through the documentation, there was this here, and then I realized, oh, right, so I don't know where this default sort of values, well, these default channel settings are. I don't know, actually, it doesn't describe that. But anyway, what it does say, though, is that for movement updates, it's the default unreliable. So that means for movement updates, it's better to use an unreliable channel. And for stuff like, shooting and spawning and so on, it's better to use a reliable channel. So I did show you previously how to set at the top of your script which channel you wanted to use. You can in fact set the channels by code as well. It's not that complicated, but it is here. So I'll just change it to this one to unreliable. If I was sending a lot of data, then I would use unreliable fragmented. It explains that also in this area of the manual, in the scripting part of the manual. And there I saw that, yeah, okay, so if it's a lot of data to send, then use unreliable fragmented. In this case, it's just unreliable. I'll just shut this down here. It's just unreliable. That's the applicable one, really. It's going to time out anyway with both of those. And then the reliable sequence for channel 1. It's not going to get used, though I could set it in the scripts to use that for various things, like, for respawning or player shooting and so on. It would make sense to set them to use channel 1 rather than 0. And that way too, it is quite important, for example, for shooting, that when you're doing the hit detection, it's getting done on the client. And of course, if that message needs to get to the server, so then you would use reliable so that the message will get to the server and it will be applied. Okay, Whereas with unreliable, if anything is lost, it doesn't matter, then just the next message that comes along, that's what just gets sent instead. Which is good for, I guess, motion, now that I've learned that. Okay, so I might as well build and run again. And there's another problem with the matchmaking too, is that if you disconnect as a client, you cannot actually reconnect to the same server. You actually have to shut the game down and then reopen the game. So I think that's just a bug right now. I guess the system is completely brand new, and so there are going to be problems with it. And in my case too, I'm probably having more problems just because of the amount of data getting sent. I'm probably pushing things way too far with, I guess, the number of nav mesh agents moving about, and I'm syncing all of that information across the network, and it's just all a bit too much for this system. And you can see that the latency is pretty high too. I guess it's information is going through, I don't know exactly how it works, maybe it's the relay server or some such thing I was reading about, but however it works, the data has to go to somewhere far away and then get back to the server through that. And so I guess because of that, it takes a long time. So if I click here and just quickly, alright, good. And then you can see how much the total number of messages being sent for the zombie motion syncing, and it's a lot of data getting sent. So it probably would have made more sense for me to instead only sync the target values of the zombies and then let them move on the client. The problem though is that when a new client connects, the positions of all of these zombie characters do need to be transmitted from the server to the clients, their initial starting position, and then from there let the local target stuff take over. So that is a challenge on its own. Maybe I will look into how to implement such a thing where the server will inform that newest connecting client where all of these zombie characters should be positioned. Now that's why you use the network transform components or the scripts, because that's supposed to take care of all of that for you, and that is what has been happening. It is all taken care of for me, in that I can just have any client just come in and the positions are all up to date and so on. So far it's been running. I'm expecting it to time out anytime about now. I don't know exactly what causes the timeout. It's not very helpful. It doesn't help me understand what has caused the timeout. There we go. It's now timing out. So I should stop that. Right. And what was the last bit of data sent? So there we go. It says timeout. And what was the last state of this client? Well, yeah, there isn't really much for me to go on, actually. I really don't know what caused the timeout. Unfortunately, that's it. So all I can say is that yes, the matchmaking works, and for my case, it looks like it's not robust enough, but maybe if your game is a lot simpler, you'll be able to go on for a long time without any problem whatsoever. But in my case, there certainly is a problem, and I don't know what the problem is yet. So maybe at some point in time I will figure that out. And come to some sort of solution with how to fix that up. But anyway, I guess that's it for this video, and at some point in the time, if I figure out what is causing the problem, of course I'll make another video explaining what is the problem there, or if I come up with another solution with syncing those AIs in a better and smarter and more efficient way, then I'll go ahead with that as well. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.